I stood outside the bathroom door and listened for the water. She always turned on the shower before unlocking her phone, pretending to check the weather or queue up a playlist. But I knew the truth. That room was her safe zone, her illusion of privacy. Tonight, she was taking longer than usual. I leaned against the wall, arms crossed, eyes on the keyhole. It was quiet. Then came the soft click of the power button, her fingers swiping across the screen. I stepped slightly forward, angling my view. From the keyhole, the mirror was visible, and in it, her screen. For digits. 0719, swift, confident. A code burned into muscle memory. July 19th. The day she told me she was going on a mental health retreat. The same day, I found a crumpled napkin with a hotel logo on the back seat of her car. I told myself it was nothing. I lied to myself then. But now, the code told me I'd been right all along. I stepped back into the shadow. When she came out, towel over her shoulders, wet strands clinging to her collarbone, I acted like I was reading something on my tablet. She nodded and passed without speaking. I still heard the numbers drumming in my head. 0719. My phone buzzed. John, old friend, tech guy. He'd gotten me the same model as hers, down to the color and storage. For the past week, I'd been practicing the sequence, matching her motions exactly, timing the screen lock, mimicking the way she held it. I was ready. Later that night, while she slept, I sat at the edge of the bed watching her face. Her eyelids fluttered, restless. She always slept light when she'd been with him. I walked down to the kitchen and poured myself water. Her favorite mug sat on the counter, white ceramic, gold rim. I bought it for our 3rd anniversary. She used to say coffee tasted better in that mug. A week ago, I saw that exact mug in someone else's bed. Different sheets. Foreign room. The man's hand in frame. Not mine. I didn't confront her. I didn't even flinch. Instead, I started building. I checked her transactions, requested detailed statements. Something felt off. Recurring payments labeled therapy. But the billing address was a hotel. That same hotel. I called them under a fake name. The clerk confirmed the reservation. Every Thursday, 3-hour blocks. Paid in advance. Always the same room. She wasn't going to therapy. I didn't need confession. I needed structure. And in her phone, once I switched them, I didn't find texts. No nude photos. No hotel selfies. Just notes. Voice memos. Poetry. You're my future. My air. My escape from a life I didn't choose. The file was titled Through Skin. The latest recording was from 2 days ago. Her voice, but softer. Detached. Sometimes he looks at me like I'm vanishing. And in those moments, I know, I already have. I hit pause. This wasn't a fling. This was migration. She was already living in another world, just using my life as camouflage. She wasn't afraid of me. She didn't even respect me, which meant fear had to be introduced. Not with shouting, not with confrontation, with silence, with finality, with strategy. The next Thursday, I left the apartment an hour before Melanie's session. She didn't notice. She was too focused on curling her hair, checking the clock, applying a second coat of lip balm. Her phone never left her side, like a lifeline or a vault. I parked 3 blocks away from the Hilton and waited. At exactly 5:52 p.m., I watched her car pull into the garage. She was early, always was. Predictable, when she thought no one was watching. She walked through the lobby with that light, intentional gait I used to think was elegant. Now it looked like performance. A woman trying to be seen without looking obvious. She wore the same navy dress from our engagement photos. I didn't follow her in. I didn't need to. I already knew the room number. She always went to 814. Always paid in cash. Back in my car, I pulled up the audio recorder app and started it. I'd wired a microphone into the lining of her purse 3 days earlier. During a date night, she insisted we needed to reconnect. She'd gone to the bathroom. I made the switch in 90 seconds. I sat in silence for 2 hours, listening in through Bluetooth. It wasn't sex. It wasn't even physical. She cried. She read to him. One of the poems again. Same phrases. Same longing. He doesn't see me. He only sees what I used to be. His voice was harder to make out. Muffled, but calm. Reassuring. You've already left him. You're just afraid to admit it. She didn't argue. That night, she came home smelling like the perfume I bought her, but fainter. Diluted. She kissed my cheek like we were strangers at a dinner party. She didn't ask about my day. I didn't offer. The next morning, I made coffee. I used a different mug. A black one. No rim. No memory. She came in, picked up hers, the white ceramic with the gold edge. She looked inside it like she expected something to be there. A note. A message. Or maybe she felt it. The shift. The way silence thickens before a storm. Did you sleep? She asked. I nodded. You. She hesitated, then smiled. Yeah, surprisingly well. She poured her coffee, added cream, stirred it counterclockwise, always counterclockwise, and sat down. Then I dropped it. Who's Julian? She froze. She didn't blink, didn't move, but her pupils shifted, left, then center. Her mouth opened slightly, then closed. No words, just eyes. That was the first time I saw it. The flinch behind the silence. The moment her world skipped a beat. A name she hadn't prepared for. A thread she didn't know I held. I didn't press. I didn't even repeat the question. I watched her eyes catch up to her mouth. Julian, she said finally. I don't know. Why? I shrugged. Carol mentioned him. Thought he might have been at your office. Lie. Total fabrication. But she didn't know that. Her smile was forced. Doesn't ring a bell. She changed the subject to dinner. Pasta or Thai? I said nothing. Just sipped my coffee and stared at the rim of her cup. The next hour, I went into her phone again. Same code. 0719. This time, I downloaded everything. One folder stood out. A locked notes file labeled Perspective. I cracked it using the mirrored clone I'd trained on. Inside were voice memos dated and tagged. Some had names. Others just times and initials. One caught me. 7:16 p.m. J. I played it. We have to be careful. He's smart. If he finds out before it's all in place. The audio clipped. Restarted. Let him be the villain. That's how this ends clean. That was her voice. No poetry. No sorrow. Cold. Planned. I stared at the waveform on the screen, the playback bar pulsing forward. This wasn't survival. This wasn't love. This was construction. She was building a narrative. A version of me. Abuser. Obstacle. Ghost. And I was done playing that role. Saturday morning. I stood at the sink, rinsing out dishes from the night before. Melanie was still asleep, or pretending to be. She did that more often now, curling toward the window, her back to me, like sunlight could shield her from consequence. I picked up her mug again. The white one with the gold rim. The one I gave her on our 3rd anniversary. I rotated it in my hand, thumb sliding across a faint crack near the base. Probably from one of those Thursday nights when she came home too distracted to be careful. I dried it and placed it back exactly where she liked it, right side of the second shelf, handle pointing west. Then I went to my office. I didn't touch her phone that day. I didn't need to. I'd already exported the entire contents. Timeline, messages, notes, voice memos, even calendar entries. I had enough to lay the foundation. But I needed something more. I needed symmetry. Around 3 p.m., I drove to a downtown boutique. The kind she used to drag me into on Sundays when we still played at being happy. I walked past the scarves, ignored the candles, and found it, a duplicate. Same mug. White. Gold rim. A slightly newer version, but nearly identical. I bought it. Had them wrap it. Then I drove to Kane's house. He lived in a beige colonial in the suburbs, 2-car garage, spotless driveway. His wife was out front, gardening. 2 kids playing soccer in the yard. Picture perfect. I stayed in the car, parked half a block down, watched for 20 minutes. Then I left the wrapped mug on his porch with no note. She'd explain it. Or not. Either way, I wanted her to scorn when he asked. Wanted her to taste the dissonance. That night, Melanie came home late. Claimed she had to stay and help close a client's mortgage application. Said it was urgent. She smelled like cinnamon gum and cheap wine. I was sitting on the couch when she walked in. She kissed my forehead like I was fragile. How was your day? She asked. Productive. She nodded. Glad to hear that. She poured herself a glass of wine. Not the good kind. The kind she buys when she's guilty. Sat across from me, phone in hand, scrolling. Then she paused. Did you go anywhere? I looked up. Why? No reason. She smiled. But it wasn't real. She knew. She always knew when I moved something. When I rearranged a pattern. It unnerved her. I went to the store, I said. Picked up a couple things. Oh, groceries. And a cup. Her hand twitched slightly, tapping her screen twice. What kind of cup? Just a white ceramic one. Gold rim. She didn't look at me. She didn't have to. Her knuckles whitened. That's funny, she said. Weird coincidence. Yeah, I replied. Crazy, right? We didn't speak for the rest of the night. She went to bed early. I stayed up, listening to the audio from her purse mic again. She hadn't disabled it. She probably forgot it was even in there. And that was the tell. She was too comfortable. On the latest recording, she mentioned a name, Lacey. Lacey says he's starting to suspect. I don't think he's stupid. He just doesn't want the truth. Lacey, her best friend since college. The one who got her the job at the bank. The one who always asked me the same 3 questions every time we met. Still working crazy hours? Still tired? Still married? That night, I started logging interactions. Times, dates, phrases. I created a shared folder titled Joint Assets and uploaded everything labeled and categorized. Not on her phone, but a cloud account linked to our joint mortgage application. She'd find it eventually. And when she did, the question wouldn't be if I knew. It would be how long. Monday morning. She lingered longer than usual by the hallway mirror, adjusting her necklace, smoothing the hem of her skirt, double-checking her reflection like it might give her different answers. I stood at the kitchen counter, finishing my coffee. Her cup, the original, not the replica, sat untouched. Still perfectly clean from 2 days ago. She didn't take it anymore. That alone said everything. I might be late tonight, she said, not turning. Therapy. Her hand paused mid-brush through her hair. Subtle, but I caught it. She turned, smile loaded and slow. Yeah, Dr. Levin's trying a new method. Longer sessions. Sounds intense. It is. But it's helping. I nodded. Watched her pick up her phone, slip it into her bag. She still hadn't noticed the switch. That was the part that fascinated me, how little attention people paid to the things they claimed mattered most. She kissed my cheek again, lingering, like she was trying to sell something. I let her. After she left, I took the clone phone and dug deeper into her browser history, recently deleted files. There was nothing graphic, nothing overt, but I found bookmarks. Titles like Narcissistic Spouse Survival, Documenting Abuse Legally, How to Frame Gaslighting, all dated within the last 4 weeks. She wasn't preparing to leave. She was preparing to win. Later that afternoon, I drove to her bank. Didn't go inside, just watched. At 3:47 p.m., she stepped outside with Lacey. They both laughed. Melanie pointed toward her car. Lacey handed her a folder. Not a thick one, but sealed, banded tight. I took a photo, uploaded it to the cloud folder under Joint Assets Lacey Involvement. That night, when she got home, I left the folder open on the living room TV, mirrored from my laptop. Subtle enough she might think it was a glitch. Obvious enough to make her look closer. She dropped her keys. Stared at the screen. What's that? She asked. Just organizing files. Our mortgage stuff. She blinked. I don't remember that name. Joint Assets? You wouldn't. I made it last week. I watched her scan the screen. Each labeled recording, each date. She didn't say a word. Instead, she walked over and unplugged the TV. I'm exhausted, she muttered. I nodded. Long session? She froze. Then turned. Yeah, real heavy. She walked down the hall without waiting for a response. 20 minutes later, she was back. Wine in one hand, her phone in the other. But she wasn't looking at me. She was studying me. Measuring. You ever feel like you're being watched? She asked. I tilted my head. Why? She smiled. Too wide. Just something Dr. Levin said. I set my glass down. Maybe you're watching yourself too much. That made her laugh. Short, brittle. She stepped closer, phone tucked behind her. You're acting different lately, she said. I shrugged. So are you. She didn't deny it. Just walked to the window and stared out at the street below. She didn't ask what I meant. She didn't need to. The game was alive now, breathing between every silence. Before bed, I passed by the bathroom. She was inside, door half shut, lights low. And in the mirror, reflected clean, I saw her phone. Unlocked. Notes app open. A new entry. Just 5 words. He's closer than I thought. She started waking up earlier. Not to talk. Not to spend time. Just earlier. Like silence was safer before sunrise. I'd wake to the sound of her slippers brushing the hallway floor, the faint creak of the cabinet where she kept the French press. Every sound was careful. Too careful. One morning, I came into the kitchen and found her already dressed. Hair done, phone face down, her mug full but untouched. She was staring at the toaster, waiting for something that wasn't plugged in. Everything okay? I asked. She blinked. Fine. Didn't hear your alarm. I didn't set one. That was new. She picked up her phone, hesitated, and put it back down. I made coffee. The black mug, not hers. Always now. As I poured, she spoke again. What were you doing in the living room at 2 a.m.? I didn't answer right away. Let the steam rise between us. Couldn't sleep, I said. Pacing. She studied me. You never used to pace. You never used to lie. Her face didn't move, but her knuckles went pale around the edge of the counter. You think I'm lying? She asked. I didn't respond. I just handed her the unplugged toaster and walked out. That evening, she asked if I'd be home the next night. Why? I asked. No reason. Just thought we could watch something. Like old times. She hadn't used that phrase in months. Sure, I said. You pick. She smiled and nodded. Then added, Lacey might come by. She needs help with her taxes. Lacey does taxes? Melanie laughed a little too fast. No, but I do. She walked off before I could reply. I noted the time, 6:37 p.m., and logged the phrase Lacey taxes cover. The next night, she cooked spaghetti, garlic bread, wine. She even lit a candle. Lacey didn't show. She never planned to. I knew that. Halfway through the meal, Melanie said, You remember that hiking trip in Vermont? The one where we got lost? I nodded. She smiled. You were calm. I wasn't. You panicked, I said. You said we were going to die. She laughed. But it was tight. Off rhythm. Back then, she said, you used to hold my hand when I got scared. And now, you don't even look at me. I stared at her, silent. Then, do you want me to? She didn't answer. Just reached for her wine. Her hand trembled. She dropped her fork. And that's when it broke, not the silverware, but the rhythm. The way she leaned down, her phone slipping from her lap, hitting the floor. Screen lit up. I saw the app open before she snatched it up. Not notes. Recorder. Active. Running. She hadn't meant to drop it. She hadn't meant for me to see it. But now I had. I said nothing. Just stood, took my plate, and walked it to the sink. Behind me, she said quietly, I didn't mean to record me? Silence. You were going to use it, I said. In court. Or in therapy. Or wherever your next act lands. More silence. Then, you scare me sometimes. I turned. Slowly. Good, I said. Not loud. Not angry. Just final. She blinked fast. Like someone holding back tears for the sake of optics. I walked past her. As I did, I looked down at the mug she was drinking from. The replica. The one I planted. She never even noticed the difference. She didn't speak to me the next morning. But I heard her. Phone calls in the bathroom. Whispered. Cut off mid-sentence when floorboards creaked. The night before had shifted something. She realized the glass was cracking, and she didn't know where the first fracture started. I stayed quiet. Patient. Let the silence grow teeth. At 10:14 a.m., I heard her laugh. Not a real laugh. A performative one. The kind she used at work events or dinner parties. Then came a name. Julian. Don't worry. It's still under control. Julian. She'd said she didn't know that name. I walked past the bathroom deliberately. Heard the click of the sink. Her voice changed pitch. Neutral. Innocent. By the time I made it to the kitchen, she was there pouring orange juice. Smile in place. Big day? She asked. I nodded. Very. She handed me a glass. You look tired. I sipped, watching her. You know, I said, you mentioned Julian the other night. Then acted like you'd never heard of him. Her hand paused mid-pour. Did I? She asked, tone flat. You did. She didn't respond. Just placed the carton back in the fridge and closed it gently. Then, what exactly are you trying to catch me in, Donald? Her first direct hit. I stared at her for a long time before answering. Nothing you haven't already admitted. Just not to me. She picked up her phone, locked now. Always locked. But I still had the clone. And in that clone, the folder labeled P had updated overnight. Perspective, revision 3. Inside, another recording. Timestamp 3:12 a.m. He's watching me. Every breath feels like a test. Julian says I should start documenting more. Make it feel credible. Even if I don't believe it yet. Even if I don't believe it yet. She was practicing, not feeling. Training herself to speak fear into life. So when the moment came, her story would sound lived. That day, I went to her bank. This time, I walked in. Asked for Lacey. Pretended I was there to surprise Melanie. Birthday setup. Harmless. Lacey wasn't there. She's on leave, the receptionist said. Out of state for a couple weeks. That told me everything I needed. Lacey wasn't coming over to do taxes. Lacey wasn't even in town, which meant the lie wasn't for me. It was for Julian. That night, I made dinner. Nothing fancy. Stir fry. No wine. She walked in around 7:20 p.m., hair windblown. Lipstick faded. She sat across from me and picked at the food like a stranger testing for poison. "I saw your LinkedIn," she said suddenly. I looked up. "You changed your status. Says you're still on medical leave." I nodded. "I am. You usually hide that kind of thing. Maybe I'm not hiding anymore." She swallowed hard. "That's new." I set my fork down. "We all evolve." She pushed her plate aside and stared. Then she leaned forward, elbows on the table, voice quiet. "Are you planning something?" "Yes." She blinked, waited, but I didn't elaborate. I stood, took her plate, and dumped the food. Behind me, her voice was smaller. "I don't want to fight you." "We're not fighting." "Then what are we doing?" "Finishing." I walked out without looking back. Friday. Rain. She always hated driving in it, said it made her feel boxed in. But that morning, she left the apartment without her usual delay. No double-checking her makeup. No goodbye kiss. Just silence and water. At 9:03 a.m., I watched her pull out of the garage from my parked car a block away. She didn't see me. Or maybe she did and pretended not to. She was good at that. I followed. Not close. Just enough to trace her path. No detours. No gym. No breakfast stop. She drove straight to the Hilton. Again. That's when it became clear. The therapy story had died. She wasn't bothering with it anymore. Not with me. Not even with herself. She was leaning fully into the other life now. Like a snake shedding skin that never fit. At 9:41 a.m., I parked and stepped into the adjacent coffee shop. Ordered something I didn't need and waited. Pulled out my phone, the clone. There was a new message from a contact saved only as. It read, "No session today. Room's still yours. Be careful. He's quieter now equals more dangerous." I stared at the emoji. A candle. As if this was sacred. As if the lies needed mood lighting. I took a screenshot and filed it under intent acknowledged. At 11:27 a.m., she came out. Hair slightly damp. Face blank. No smile. Not even that post-lie relief I used to notice when she'd get away with something small, like erasing a charge from the Amex and blaming a bank error. No. This time she looked worried. Not about me. About herself. She sat in her car for 6 full minutes before driving off. That night, I left a piece of paper on her pillow. Folded and signed. Just 5 words, printed in all caps. "Who's the candle now, Melanie?" I didn't say a word. Just went to bed. She came in late. Saw the note. Froze. "Where did this come from?" she asked. I didn't answer. She held it tighter. "Donald, where did this come from?" I rolled onto my side, away from her. The silence told her more than words could. The next morning, her energy changed. She made pancakes. She wore the cardigan I gave her last Christmas, the one she claimed was too thick. She laughed at my joke about the neighbor's dog. And when I picked up her phone and handed it to her, she didn't flinch. "Thanks," she said. That single word was more loaded than anything she'd said all week. Because now she was trying to recover ground. To rewrite what I already knew. That afternoon, I texted her from an unknown number. No context. Just one image. A photo of her and Julian from the Hilton security cam I'd quietly requested through a contact at the ER who moonlights in security compliance. 12th floor elevator. His hand on her back. Her smile, wide. Timestamp clear. 11:08 a.m. Friday. She went silent for 2 hours. At 4:17 p.m., she walked into the living room and sat across from me. "You know," she said. It wasn't a question. I nodded. "And I've known," I said. "What you're only now realizing is that I don't need you to confess. I just need you to finish." Her hands shook. "You think this is easy for me?" she asked. I didn't reply. "Julian's not. It's not what you think." I stared at her. Let the weight of her own sentence catch up. "You said you didn't know him." I replied. "Twice." Her lip twitched. "I was protecting you." From silence. She stood, walked to the window, arms folded. "He understands me," she said finally. "That's all." I nodded. "Then he can have you." She turned. "You don't want to fight for us?" "I already did. When you stopped." And I walked out. I spent the weekend assembling it. The digital folder. I called it Reflection. Inside were 6 subfolders. Voice memos. Hotel footage. Julian logs. Lacey threads. therapy receipts, misstatements, each one with date-stamped files, screenshots, audio, transcripts, each one linking to the next like a chain, not to destroy her, just to clarify the version of reality she could no longer alter. I shared the folder with 3 people, my lawyer, a neutral friend, and myself on a backup drive. Melanie didn't ask where I went that weekend. I told her I was working on a presentation. That part wasn't a lie. Monday, I invited her to dinner. Candlelit. Soft music. The version of us she always performed in public. She looked suspicious. Is this a trap? She asked before we even sat down. No. This is clean air. I plated everything carefully. Watched her from across the table. No wine tonight. Just water. Halfway through, I placed my phone on the table and tapped the screen. AirPlay connected. The living room TV came to life. Her voice filled the room. He doesn't see me. He only sees what I used to be. The same recording from 3 weeks ago. She froze. Fork midair. Shoulders locked. Next, her and Julian. Lobby footage. Side profile. Hand brushing his lower back. Then a screenshot of the message from. And then, the real dagger. A screen-recorded scroll through the Notes app. One title, Building Narrative. One entry, read aloud. Keep him passive. Make him feel like he's unraveling, not me. Let Lacey confirm small details. Gaslight on neutral ground. She reached for the remote. I got to it first. Paused the screen. Turned to her. How long have you been building a case against me? She didn't answer. I pressed. Before or after you started calling it therapy? Her hands clenched in her lap. I wasn't trying to hurt you, she whispered. But you weren't trying to protect me either. She looked up. Tears now. Controlled. Measured. Donald, I was scared. Of what? Being found out. She shook her head. Of losing the version of me I was trying to become. I almost laughed. But I didn't. Instead, I tapped my phone again. New file. A memo from her phone dated 4 months back. She was coaching herself. Practicing phrases. You made me feel unsafe. You controlled the narrative. I was isolated. I paused it. You never said those words to me. Not once. Because you wouldn't have believed me. No, I said. Because they were never true. But you needed them to be. For court. For friends. For Julian. She stood glassy-eyed. Walked to the kitchen. Gripped the counter like she might fall. And finally said the thing I knew she was holding. This was supposed to be clean. You weren't supposed to react like this. I stood too. That's the problem, Melanie. You've mistaken my silence for absence. But I've been here the whole time. Watching. Listening. I stepped closer, slow. I didn't need to explode. I needed you to finish the lie. Because now it's complete. She didn't speak. Didn't move. Just stood there, frozen, as I walked back to the table, finished my water, and tapped the folder one last time. Reflection. Updated. Final. The next morning, she made breakfast. Toast. Eggs. Too much butter. Her way of coping. Feeding what she couldn't repair. I ate in silence. She tried to meet my eyes twice. I didn't give her the comfort of that. She asked nothing about the folder, the footage, or the voice memos. Like ignoring them might rewind the clock. I spent the afternoon at the courthouse. No drama. Just paperwork. I filed for divorce under constructive abandonment, a quiet clause with loud consequences. My lawyer had already reviewed the packet I'd assembled. The folder. The recordings. The subtle thread showing intent to defame, manipulate, and gain favorable standing through fabricated emotional abuse. She was attempting to stage a breakdown. I was documenting the architecture of her performance. After I filed, I sent her one message. You'll be served by Friday. I've already moved half the assets into protected holding. We'll divide the rest by standard procedure. No anger. No insult. Just the final signal. This was happening on my terms. She didn't reply. Didn't need to. Instead, she called Lacey. I know because the recording app, still buried in her cloned phone, caught it all. He knows. He is everything. How much did he say? Nothing. That's what's worse. Did he mention Julian? Only once. He doesn't care. That's the part that terrifies me. You need to get ahead of this. Frame it before it frames you. They were still trying to write the ending. Problem was, I already had. That night, I invited her to dinner again. One last stage. She looked surprised. You're not angry? She asked. No. You're not even curious? I was. I'm not now. She watched me cook, something I hadn't done in weeks. I made her favorite, lemon chicken with rosemary. She barely touched it. I poured her a glass of wine. Didn't touch mine. You'll get something soon, I said. You can open it in front of me or not. Doesn't matter. She didn't ask what I meant. But when the knock came, 7:11 p.m., right on schedule, she didn't move. I opened the door, signed the document, and handed her the envelope. She stared at it like it burned, then opened it. The divorce petition. A note clipped to the front. You don't have to explain. The documents do that already. Her hands shook. I was scared, she said again, smaller this time. It felt like I was disappearing. No, I said. You were rearranging the story to make me disappear. Big difference. She set the folder down slowly. What now? You stay here until the split's formalized. After that, I'll pay 6 months' rent. You can figure the rest out with Julian. Silence. I don't want to be with Julian, she said, almost reflexively. I shrugged. I don't care who you want. I care what you did. She started to cry, the quiet kind. Strategic. The kind that makes people lean in. I stayed where I was. You were never supposed to know, she whispered. That's why you failed, I said. You built everything on the idea that I wouldn't see. And then I left the table. Left her with the envelope. The wine. The silence she used to control. Friday. She was served at 7:11 p.m. By Monday morning, Julian's name had vanished from her phone. Deleted from favorites. No new messages. Search history wiped. But the clone still recorded, and people forget that when they panic. At 10:23 a.m., she left him a voicemail. It's moving fast. He's not reacting how we thought. I can't keep playing this version. I need distance. For now. Julian never called back. Instead, I got a call. Blocked number. No voicemail. Then another. Same pattern. I didn't answer either. At 2:15 p.m., my lawyer texted. She's trying to preempt with a claim. Her lawyer's already asking about emotional instability. We were prepared for that. The reflection folder had timestamps, logs, recordings, and a clear narrative reversal. Her attempt to create false fear, gaslight by omission, and misrepresent financial dynamics. We had the voice memos of her coaching herself on language, fear phrases, key accusations. We had her own notes entries, all pulled before she realized the phone was cloned. And we had Julian. He became a full participant when he replied to her message not with concern, but strategy. I got the transcript from the clone. He'll cave. Guys like that always fold once you act fragile. Say you're scared. He's medical, he'll back down to avoid liability. That message ended his immunity. That night, I sent one email. To Julian's wife. No caption. No subject. Just one screenshot of her husband's message to Melanie. One hotel photo. One memo labeled Exit Strategy Draft.mp4, Melanie's voice outlining how to position me as unhinged in the coming months. I never heard back, but the fallout was immediate. Julian blocked Melanie. Her call log filled with red. She came home wired, raw, edges frayed. Something happened, she said. I nodded. Yeah, things tend to happen when truth enters a room. She didn't ask if I sent it. She knew. And then the unraveling began. No more therapy lies. No more Julian. Just Melanie, pacing, cornered, playing every scenario out in real time. Do we have to go to court? She asked. You tried to put me there. I replied. So yes. That week, her lawyer called mine twice. First, to dispute the recordings. Second, to negotiate. Too late. We filed the packet complete with evidence of fabricated emotional abuse narrative, digital manipulation of timestamps, third-party coordination with Julian and Lacey, proof of misuse of joint funds for personal legal positioning. Melanie's defense collapsed. We offered her the clean exit. Admit fault privately. Accept 35-65 split. No alimony. Public silence clause. She delayed, then called me. I can't lose everything. You didn't lose it, I said. You gave it to someone else. You don't have to do this. I didn't reply. Instead, I hung up and emailed her the formal settlement offer. Final draft. Attached was a note. You always said I wasn't present. Now I am. Fully. It was her sister's birthday dinner. Upscale restaurant. Private room. A mix of friends, family, coworkers. 40 people. Wine already flowing before appetizers hit the table. Melanie insisted I come. I want things to feel normal, she'd said. Normal wasn't a setting we had anymore, just a costume we wore in front of other people. I said yes, because that was the plan. I arrived on time. Gray shirt. No tie. Neutral face. She wore green, that same shade she used to reserve for holidays. The kind of dress that made people notice her before they noticed the room. She smiled when I walked in, like nothing had happened. Fake warmth. That old weapon. Her sister hugged me. Her mother made a half-joke about grandkids. Her father, silent. He never liked me. Maybe now he'd get his wish. We sat across from each other. She was mid-conversation with her friend Ashley, laughing too loud. I tapped my glass once. Just once. The room quieted on instinct. I stood. Before dessert, I'd like to say something. Melanie froze, wine mid-air. Over the past year, I've learned something important about patterns, about silence, and about reflection. A few polite smiles. One awkward chuckle. I continued. Reflection shows you things you missed. Things people tried to hide. But once you know where to look, it's all right there. I pulled out my phone. Tapped the screen. Behind me, the restaurant TV blinked to life. AirPlay connected. Melanie's voice. Let him be the villain. That's how this ends clean. Silence. A photo followed. Her and Julian. Hotel hallway. Time-stamped. Another recording played. Lacey says he's starting to suspect. I don't think he's stupid. He just doesn't want the truth. Her glass dropped. Shattered. Someone gasped. I turned back to her. I stayed silent because I needed clarity. Not revenge. Not drama. But full clarity. I looked at her father. This is why we're divorcing. Not because we drifted. Not because we changed. Because she rewrote truth to escape consequence. Melanie stood up fast. Turn it off. I did. Because I didn't need to show the rest. The room had already seen enough. Her mother covered her mouth. Her sister sat stunned. Ashley looked away. And Melanie? She didn't say a word. She walked out. No defense. No speech. No spin. Outside, I caught up with her by the valet. You didn't have to do it here, she said, shaking. Yes, I said. I did. Because this is where you look the most honest, in front of people who never knew who you really were. She stared at me. You planned all this? No, I said. You did. I just kept the receipts. She said nothing. Just turned and walked away. I watched the taillights until they vanished. Then I went back inside. Dessert was served. The fallout began before midnight. Ashley texted me first. I didn't know. I swear. If I had to. I didn't respond. Melanie's sister messaged next. We're with you. This isn't your fault. Then her father. A single line. She always wanted more than she could carry. That one, I saved. The next morning, Melanie was gone. Not from the apartment, not yet. But gone in the way someone looks when the scaffolding's been stripped away. Hair unwashed. Eyes heavy. Phone face down. Not even pretending anymore. I walked into the kitchen. She sat there with both hands wrapped around a cup. Not hers. Not the one I gave her. A blank, handleless thing from the back of the cabinet. No memory. No story. You told them all, she said. I told the truth. No one's answering me. That's what silence feels like. She nodded slowly. You're proud of this? I finished pouring my coffee before answering. No. I'm done with pride. This was about balance. You humiliated me. No. You wrote a script where I was the monster. I just opened the curtains. She stared down at the cup. Her voice dropped. He left me. I didn't ask who. I didn't need to. They all left, she said. Even Lacey. You were always the common thread. Her lip trembled. No tears. She was past that now. Raw. Unarmored. She stood, walked past me, stopped at the hallway. Can we talk? We are. I mean, about what happens now. You sign. She turned. And after? You pack. Her voice thinned out. I don't have anywhere to go yet. I nodded. You have 6 months rent prepaid. My lawyer already emailed the details. Use it wisely. You don't have to. I don't. I cut in. But I want to leave clean. That was never your goal. It's mine. At work, I was met with quiet nods. No questions. Word had spread faster than I expected. The birthday dinner's public echo doing more than private proof ever could. My boss asked me into his office. Said one thing. Handled with precision. Let us know if you need time. I didn't. I was already back. That night, I came home to boxes in the living room. Taped, half-labeled. She was trying to act ahead of the clock. Her face was stripped of expression. Not broken, just emptied. I'll be out by Sunday, she said. I nodded. No hug. No apology. She turned to leave, then paused. There's still part of me that thinks you could have forgiven me. I looked at her for the first time in hours. I did. I said. That's why I'm not destroying you. I'm just erasing you from my life. That landed harder than she expected. She didn't speak again, just kept taping boxes. Sunday, 10:42 a.m. She stood at the counter, pen in hand. The settlement agreement sat between us, 47 pages, each one marked and cross-referenced. No room left to debate. I poured coffee. Black. Clean. She didn't ask for any. Instead, she hovered, reading and rereading like one clause might shift beneath her fingers. You're really doing this, she said. I already did. Her signature hesitated on the final page. I thought you'd want to hawk it through. That was 40 lies ago. She looked up. I swollen, but not from crying, from exhaustion. The kind of mental fatigue that arises when every angle closes in and nothing bends anymore. I tried to build something new, she said quietly. I didn't know how to fix what we had. You didn't try, I said. You rehearsed. You curated. And when I stopped being the backdrop you needed, you started writing a new narrative, one that would let you leave with applause. Her hands trembled slightly. She signed, initialed every page. By 11:07 a.m., it was done. I handed the documents to my attorney at noon. He reviewed them in silence, then nodded. It's rare, he said, to see it handled this clean. She rehearsed a performance. I rehearsed a strategy. He smiled. Her side won't contest? No. The evidence made sure of that. He paused. There's something else, he added. We received a message. From Julian. Through his lawyer. I didn't flinch. He's requesting that all shared materials involving him be kept private, or else he'll pursue civil action. Let him try, I said. We have no intent to publish. But discovery doesn't need consent. He nodded. You know, he added, the moment you showed me that audio, the one where she practiced sounding afraid, I knew we had leverage most people never get. That wasn't leverage, I said. It was prophecy. That evening, I returned home to find her key on the table. No note. Just silence. The boxes were gone. So was the mug. Both of them. She hadn't taken clothes from the closet, only the corner dresser. Nothing framed. Nothing personal. Like she wanted to vanish from the house entirely. I walked through the rooms one last time. Not mourning. Just confirming. In the bedroom, on the side of the bed she used to sleep on, I found a single post-it stuck to the headboard. 5 words. Not hers. Julian's handwriting. He doesn't react right. That was all. No signature. No apology. Just an echo from a man who thought he could define me from a distance. I peeled it off, folded it in half, and dropped it into the trash. The next morning, her social accounts went dark. Julian's, too. Lacey removed all shared photos. The circle collapsed on itself. And me? I went to work. Reviewed patient charts. Ate lunch alone. Slept without pacing. By Thursday, Julian was gone. Not dead. Not arrested. Just erased. His company's website redirected to a blank page. His number disconnected. A shared source confirmed he'd stepped down, personal reasons. That's how they put it when someone detonates their own life with charm and shortcuts. His wife, Nora, filed for divorce. Her lawyer reached out for a statement. I gave them what I had selectively. Nothing slanderous. Just enough to connect her to the nights, the voice notes, the intention. The rest wrote itself. Melanie didn't show up at her office the following week. Her supervisor, a former friend of mine from med school, emailed me a single sentence. The HR complaint she tried to file fell apart when the digital forensics team got involved. Turns out, she tried to use my absence, my hours, even my old journals as supporting context in a pattern of alleged intimidation. But she forgot how metadata works. Forgot that timestamps and recovery logs don't lie. The entire complaint was pulled. Quietly. But enough people saw it to know where the real fear lived. Lacey texted me one final time. I didn't know how far she was going. She made it sound like you were distant, not dangerous. I didn't reply. There's nothing to say to an accomplice who got cold feet too late. My lawyer finalized the settlement. The court date was skipped, unnecessary after both parties signed. No need for theatrics. No audience. Just paperwork and ink. The silence, after all the noise, was surgical. Clean. One night, I got a letter. Handwritten. No return address. But I knew the handwriting. She curved her R's like a wave. Sharp D's. Neat. Controlled. It said, I thought silence would make you easier to rewrite. I thought stillness meant you were gone. You never screamed. You never begged. That made it worse. I don't need you to forgive me. But I hope one day someone loves me without having to pretend. No name. No request. I burned it. 2 weeks later, I passed her on the street, corner of Pearl and Madison. She was walking alone, hair down, no makeup. The version of her that only existed before we had an audience. She saw me, stopped, waited. I didn't. I crossed without pause. And for the first time since all of it began, she didn't follow. That night, I deleted the folder. Reflection. All of it. I didn't need it anymore. She had no more versions to sell. Julian had no more versions to hide. And I had the only version left that mattered. Mine. 3 weeks after she moved out, I changed the locks. Not because I thought she'd come back, but because the handle still remembered her hand. Every room held breath she no longer earned. I replaced the rug, donated the dishes, got rid of the mugs. Even the clone phone factory reset, then dropped in a tech recycling bin downtown. Clean. I didn't save backups. Didn't keep copies. Proof is for battles. I was finished fighting. I started jogging again. Every morning at 6 a.m., same route through the park. Headphones in, eyes forward. Once, I passed the bench where we had our first real fight. She told me I made her feel small. I didn't know then that she was only comfortable towering over people. Now, when I run past that bench, I don't remember the fight. I remember how quiet I stayed. The hospital took me off leave. I picked up 3 back-to-back trauma shifts. There's something reassuring about fixing broken things that aren't lying to you. Steel doesn't manipulate. Blood doesn't gaslight. A cracked rib has no agenda. It either heals or it doesn't. One Saturday, I got an email from her old account. No message body. Just a subject line. I hope you're okay. I archived it. Didn't open. I knew that voice now, the feigned care, the final attempt to stay in orbit. And I wasn't a planet anymore. People ask if I'm angry. I'm not. Anger burns fast. It's cheap fuel. What I feel is quieter, sharper, clarity. Sometimes I still find fragments of her. A photo stuck in the back of a drawer. A strand of hair embedded in an old sweater sleeve. But I don't react. I don't trace memories. She was a version of my life. Not the definition. Not anymore. The day the divorce was finalized, I didn't tell anyone. No text. No post. Just coffee, clinic, home. I cooked myself dinner, ate in silence, and washed the dishes one at a time. Then I walked into the bedroom and saw it. The final thing she left behind. A note, taped to the back of the closet mirror. 6 words. You were always too quiet, Donald. I read it twice, then peeled it off, folded it once, dropped it in the trash, and turned off the light.